Welcome to Standard Chartered India Money Insights, a podcast series that brings you topical insights and local perspectives on India's markets from the experts.
Hello everyone, my name is Ravi. Welcome to our weekly podcast. Global risk assets recovered from a multi-week slump as investors cheered a series of positive global services activity data over concerns about inflation and tighter global monetary policy. The US Services PMI index rose to 50.6 in February from 46.8 in January, recording its highest reading since the month of June last year. The Eurozone Services PMI rose to 52.7 in February this year, recording its fastest pace of expansion since June last year. China's Services PMI also recovered to 55 in February this year, signaling the fastest pace of expansion in activity since August last year. Major global indices rallied on Friday to post strong weekly gains. The MSCI emerging markets, Asia ex-Japan, and developed market indices rose around 1.7% to 1.9%. Major US indices, including the S&P 500, Nasdaq, and Dow Jones, posted gains of around 1.7% to 2.7% over the week. US Treasury yields rose higher, while the US dollar or DXY index recorded a modest decline over the week. Back home, Indian equities edged higher amid positive global sentiments, sharp recovery in large domestic conglomerates, and improving foreign investor inflows. The Nifty index started the week on a weak note and remained volatile for most of the week before rallying sharply on Friday to post a gain of 0.7% for the week. Broader markets outperformed Nifty this week, with the Nifty Midcap index up 2%, while the Small Cap index was up 1.3% for the week. Among sectors, utilities and realty rallied sharply to post gains over 4% for the week, while the IT and pharma were the worst performing sectors, with weekly cuts of over 1.8%. The Indian fixed income market was relatively stable over the past week. The yields at the shorter end rose, tracking the rise in US Treasury yields. However, the yields at the medium to longer end remained flat. For the week, the 10-year Indian government bond yield rose by 1 basis point. The 3-year Indian government bond yield rose by 4 basis points, while the 5-year Indian government bond yields closed flat for the week. The INR recovered over the past week amid weaker US dollar and improving foreign investor inflows. For the week, the INR rose 0.9% to close at 81.9 per dollar. Among the other important news over the week were data on India's domestic activity. India's gross domestic product, or the GDP, grew 4.4% in the third quarter of fiscal year 2023, and the gross value added, or GVA, grew 4.6% year-on-year. Total consumption growth moderated to 1.7% year-on-year in the third quarter, driven by a weaker than expected growth of 2.1% year-on-year in personal final consumption expenditure and the second consecutive quarterly contraction in government final consumption expenditure. In contrast, real investments, measured as the gross fixed capital formation and the change in inventories, grew 8.1% year-on-year in the third quarter. The second data was on India's manufacturing PMI, which moderated to 55.3 in February from 55.4 in the previous month. Both output and new orders grew for the 20th month, with the rates of expansion broadly similar to the start of the year. However, export orders moderated. On prices, input cost inflation accelerated to a 4-month high, but there was a softer upturn in selling charges. The third data was on India's Services PMI, which increased to a 12-year high of 59.4 in February 2023 from 57.2 in the previous month, driven by a sharp expansion in output and improvement in new business orders. On the pricing front, input cost inflation eased to a 23-month low, while output cost inflation slowed to a 12-month low. At this point, I'll take a pause and thank you as always for listening. If you find this podcast useful, please like and subscribe. Have a great week ahead.
Thank you for listening to Standard Chartered India Money Insights. Stay tuned for the latest updates and market trends by subscribing to our podcast. For more information, reach out to your Standard Chartered Relationship Manager or visit www.se.com/in.